Hello and welcome back to the Eternal Dawn. I am your captain, Straw Hat Lucas. First up, let's say hi to the historian slash first mate of the Eternal Dawn, Mr. Cube of the Red Sea. How you doing today, Cube?
What up, what up? Well, man, it's a great day to be here, celebrating two great birthdays and one good birthday in the One Piece verse, and just, another fire chapter. I'm excited.
That's right, Mihawk, you'll get a great birthday when you have a named attack. Next up, the newest member of the Eternal Dawn, the helmsman himself, Mr. Knack Reacts. How we doing today, Knack?
Oh, I'm doing grand. What are you at, guys? I can't wait to get into this chapter. I'm real excited for it. And if you haven't, go check out our most recent theory video on Blackbeard.
Yes, very spicy theory. I hope that everyone who's watched it enjoyed it. And if you haven't watched it, like Knack said, go check it out. Next up, someone who's like a brother to me, one of my closest friends in the entire world, the head cook of the Eternal Dawn, Mr. Vexus, the Lurking Legend. How we doing today, Vex?
What's good? It's your boy Vexus, the Lurking Legend. Y'all can just call me Vex. I'm super pumped. I cannot wait. We got a wonderful chapter to discuss, and yeah, I'm hype. Glad to be here.
Yes. Last and certainly not least, by the slightest, the heart and soul of the crew, the one who navigates us through these choppy waters, Mrs. 3-Day Trip. How we doing today, Miss 3-Day?
Doing good. Ready to get into this chapter and see what they're afraid of.
Yes. I'm ready for the Ange slander. Cube, you want to start us out with the cover story?
No, listen, we're at the part I'm so happy about the cover story is we're finally going to find out what's going to happen with, the problem that is the remaining beast pirates. And hey, man, listen, people say that we've got Yamato feet on the cover story, and we have Yama goat. Reminds us why Yamato is the goat. It's honestly, I think it's showing that Yamato is doing business, and it kind of gives me the callback of Odin and Kiros, getting all the criminals or delinquent on humbling them. You know what I mean? Showing them a better purpose.
Well, yeah,
I don't think the beast pirates need a redemption arc, but they need to find something to do with them, because they can't let them stay in Wano.
Yeah, they can't run wild in Wano. I think it's really because it's called, it's Yamato's pilgrimage. It's he's doing what Odin did and going around Wano. I'd love to see, maybe not in this cover story, but like maybe later when Luffy meets up with Yama again, Yamato being like, yeah, I went across Wano and destroyed every faction of the beast pirates left. Like, that would be awesome. I'm glad to see some more action in it. There for a minute, and like I said in the last chapter discussion, I was really like, man, I need something to happen in this cover story already.
Yeah, I agree.
I am upset. I'm gonna be completely real. Yeah, it's cool that it's taken off finally, and the bit is still alive. They're like, oh yeah, it's just you got to get 30 chapters in, and then it gets good. Just like I was saying last discussion, but I was really hoping that Otama would end up soloing, but can't always get what you want,
Yeah, but there's a setup for, like, what if Yamato, right, frees page 1 and ulti, and then ulti still is like, nah, screw you, Yamato, you betrayed Kaido, and then that's when we get to see
I'll be
Toma
upset
get,
if he stands up after this.
Oh no, he's dead. Sorry, he's unalived.
I was to say, I like anytime they say the word Dawn across it. It just makes me always think it's important.
Well, see, this actually says D on. I'm wondering what that could mean.
You're right. I was not thinking.
The thing that's also so badass is Usu did not even have time to unsheath his sword. You look at it.
Yeah.
It's not his sword, but yeah.
That's what he stole. The stolen sword.
That's right.
Cool. Gives kind of a Zoro and Brook. Remember Brook in Solo Bark, that first feat we got from him, where he was just laughing and walking, and he unsheathed his sword quickly, and then put it back in, and then suddenly everyone was down.
Well, I was gonna say
the
that,
same
like,
position as the spider monkey as well. like
I was gonna say, like,
can't
isn't
do
this
to
a
me. Y'all
Kaido
can't-
attack?
It is.
Thunder
But we've
Bagua?
seen
Yeah.
It
we've
is, yeah.
seen
Yes, Thunder Bagua.
we've seen Yamato use Thunder Bagua before, but y'all can't bring up Thriller Bark multiple times, and we're only on the cover story. We'll be here all day. Okay. Like, we
Listen,
gotta move
though,
on.
I've been saying since the cover story started that I wanted it to end with Moria or like Cross Guild showing up, and Moria's with them, and like Yamato joins
Ooh.
Cross Guild for a little bit, like
Ooh.
Whitebeard and Odin. And I need that. I need that. And maybe this is a sign towards it. Look, he's positioned just like the spider monkey that Brook took down. That means Thriller Bark is coming. Maybe Moria shows up to get the
No.
sword back.
No, I doubt that. Let's get into the chapter.
I don't know about that. Like, I'm the biggest Thriller Bark fan. Don't get me wrong, but that's grasping at straws there. I think that it is really
Always,
interesting,
baby.
though, that we like a lot of people have been saying, because Who's Who has been in the cover story, that there's a possible tie-in because we're getting Nika lore in the actual chapter events and things like that. I don't know if he's down for good right now. That kind of puts all that to bed. So I kind of do hope he still hangs around a bit, and maybe this is like an Odin versus Ashura Doji thing, because they fought for like 3 days. You know what I mean? So like, obviously people are thinking that Yamato recruits Page 1 and Ulti right here, but this could also be a Who's Who recruiting arc. So I think I don't need redemption for any of those characters, but you know, I didn't really need redemption for Ashura Doji either. So I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how this all goes.
Rest in peace to the goat. Yeah, 3 days been preaching that since the beginning of the cover story, that it'll tie in with the Nika stuff. Like before Who's Who even showed up, that just strengthened her point. So yeah, let's dive in, move past the cover story now, dive right into the chapter. We come back to the Owl School, or no, it's the Walrus School. That's what it's called. And the children are terrified because a giant snake has appeared in the schoolyard. One thing I have to say is that right away I noticed the difference in the art of the snake in juxtaposition to the art of the rest of the chapter, which is very telling of what's to come in the chapter. But this, starting out with this heavy of action, smooth move, Oda. It is perfect. And I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. I mean it is smooth.
I had to double
With
check.
these, yeah.
I was
Really?
like, no way, this is happening right out the gate. Like, first, like, did I miss something?
Didn't I say last chapter discussion that we would start out back at the school? That's a dub for me. I'm counting it.
I won't lie. That first scene where, you know, the snake chasing them. You were talking about the drawing. You know how it's drawn. It kind of gave me the vibe of the transition when in Wano with Robin when she went to her demon form. The shading
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
on her face.
You know the
Gave
vibes
me the
I was
same vibe
getting.
when I read it.
Ryunosuke.
No, from this whole first page, what it really honestly made me think was Hercules from back in the day when the Hydra shows up. And then like Pain and Panic are like disguised as those little kids, like, gee, mister, you sure are strong. Like, but this looks this gives me like exactly those vibes. I don't know if y'all are
Cat
picking
Goldsworth.
that up.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. Jeez, mister, you sure are strong. Like, we then got introduced to two more members of faculty from the Walrus School. We have a maths teacher. Sorry, Cube. I know you're in Europe, so maths. Mr. Blade, and the Walrus School principal, Principal Tusk, who looks like a walrus. Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because he is a giant for sure, and there's been talked about hybrid races.
Yeah, I
Mac, I
I
think
definitely
you
like
said
the
you
little
had some-
pun.
Yeah, I think he's a giant mink. I just, like, we had Wano connected to the Zhao in the past, like, 20, 30 years. And now I'm thinking that the giant warrior pirates had a connection to Zhao 100 years ago, maybe. And this guy is a part of that connection. He's kind of like the dog storm of that generation.
That's I like that a lot, actually.
If you actually analyze in Odin flashback and in what's it called in the God Valley flashback, if you analyze some of the background Roger pirates, well, we know that he's connected to Zhao and obviously people Wano with Odin, but he had a lot of people with the Viking outfit already in God Valley. So I wouldn't be shocked that there's like the history of all three goes way back, and every time there's a possible pirate king, he reconnects them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with him being like part mink, part giant. I would really enjoy a walrus devil fruit. I think that'd be really cool because
that'd be so cool.
Like semi-aquatic devil fruit. Like there's like the Uo Uo no Mi, Kaido's like fish model as your dragon, and then we have like Smiley had the axolotl. So like, but we don't really have a whole lot. Then there was the otter one that we just got from old girl Suru's bestie, what's her face, Bluegrass. So like there's room for semi-aquatic creatures. Obviously that doesn't let you swim still, but like
correction real quick, it wasn't Bluegrass. Bluegrass had the ride.
Oh, you're right.
The male.
The other one, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, but I wonder if that lets him breathe underwater, because the axolotl fruit was confirmed to let you breathe underwater. You still sink like a stone, but you could breathe underwater.
Yeah, it's really interesting to think about. So I mean, I'm like obviously both are possibilities. I'm cool if it's a mink, but I think I'd rather it be a devil fruit because this is a place where we're probably not going to see too many devil fruits. Like obviously the Holy Knights and their whole repertoire, whatever they've got going on, if that is devil fruits, and then Loki's mysterious devil fruit power. But this doesn't seem to be like the arc where we're going to be getting a ton of devil fruit power reveals out like of the locals. And I think it would be cool if, I don't know, like, cause we like maybe Zoans are a thing here, but just not Logias or Paramecias or something. Cause what is Biblo? Like he might be a Zoan possibly as well.
Yeah, see, I think he's a Paramecia, but we do need confirmation on that.
Yeah, confirmation.
I would love this. I would love to see a giant with his own, because like that obviously would be his hybrid form. What does his beast form look like? Like how big is that walrus, baby? The king of the rock.
It becomes Onisha size.
Yeah.
I mean, the best test to before getting the reveal is if he uses Electro in his fighting style, because that's the one thing. Because the tusk for me is either connected to the mink race or devil fruits, because having those tusks, you can't fake those. Those are real.
What if he just has like a Paramecia and it's like a tooth fruit or something? Oh, that's gross.
That would be crazy. That would be crazy.
That is wild. I was literally thinking of homebrew devil fruits last night. I was like, oh, what if you had a tooth fruit and like you just became enamel? Like
bro looking like Sim Shaw from Doctor Who.
Oh my god,
it's crazy. But no, I also really liked the whole like it's here to end the week, and then the pun, it's like, oh, you mean like Saturday? Like that's so funny to me.
Yeah, it's so good.
This is a tense moment, and like you said, the artistic direction here is a little bit more ferocious than, you know, like with this creature. And then there's like this like pun just inserted in there, and I thought that was freaking hilarious. I love it. And there's more of that to come this chapter, so I love that they set the tone immediately with that being like kind of like tense but also kind of like goofy, you know.
Yeah,
I thought it was.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, 3D.
I just thought it was interesting that their names and Ange got introduced again, and they all have names, or the other two have names that is like a description, blade or tusk. It just makes me still think that her name could be actually Angel, a description, as a messenger of God.
In French, her name that's how you write angel in French, the same way you write Ange.
Right.
So,
Angel.
An angel, like a celestial entity, a celestial dragon. Ange is a
Well, a
traitor.
messenger
Hashtag Ange is a
of the
traitor.
gods.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Leave her alone. She's a
I
nice
didn't
lady.
Nah.
I was talking nice, sort of.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
talking
not
about
you.
Lucas.
Miss Angel.
If you guys are wrong about
That's my
Angel,
new
it'll be
name.
hilarious.
But moving on to like the next little section here, what I think is even cooler and another like little pun that we get, which is amazing, is when Saul, one of my absolute goats, jumps into action. And he starts boxing with this Jormungandr like Hercules Hydra looking thing. And he, what is it? He says, midterm exclam. That's the first named attack we get. Like, that is so crazy.
Yeah,
That's a
no.
good one.
I'm seeing the Viz translations for the first time as we're doing our so I saw his named attack in the fan translations, and it was a little bit more serious, but this is perfect.
It's so
Midterm
good. Like,
slam.
that is the most One Piece shit I have ever heard, and I love it. Like, for that to be your first named attack, like, oh man, the bar is set so high. But I love it, and I don't know, it's cool seeing him just like jump into action, because we just had Oda basically dangling him off a cliff and like making us think he was made of glass when he was like faking being passed out on the beach, and I fell for it. Like, I was so worried about it, but no, bro can still scrap, and that is so cool, like, to me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I was talking with two friends of the channel, Mr. Bushido and Dexter, and we were talking about like Saul's
Easy.
power level, and I kept saying like he used to be a vice admiral, like, so he's definitely got some power for it. Because am I wrong? Isn't it a requirement that you have to have hockey to be a vice admiral?
So
I think so,
the
yeah.
Marines have never stated that, I think, but Oda has said in an SBS that every Marine that has reached vice admiral does have hockey or something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah, see, I knew it was something like similar to that.
So I won't lie, I'm really liking that feed from Saul, because ever since we've got this Marine in Egghead called what's her name, Doll, who's always with Garp, and it was fighting just like Garp with the fist, and then got that bit of my instructor 20 years ago was a Marine called Saul, giant Marine called Saul. I've always liked the idea of, you know, what if Saul and Garp goes way back, so like the way he attacked gave me that vibe of the style that Doll and Garp fights with their fist.
Yeah,
Well, they're both
this
also the only two confirmed Marines to be Willow, like D-Clan members. I mean, Dragon, I guess, but he left.
Yeah,
Great
Like,
point.
and so Dragon left, and so did Saul. They're both defectors of the Marines, and both D-Clan members as well. Garp's the only D-Clan member that we know of that's confirmed still a part of the Marines, but I could absolutely see, especially like maybe not with Garp, but maybe with Dragon, because we don't know the full timeline
Possibly,
of when
yeah.
he was enlisted. So yeah, I could see both or either of those making a lot
Dude.
of sense.
first named attack from Dragon, just imagine midterm slam, because he was also Saul's pupil. Like, I would lose it. Or if Dahl did that, like, imagine a moment in the final war where Dahl just steps up and midterm slams somebody.
No, it'll be like,
Is that
you know,
him?
Ivankov got, you know, Deathwing. It'll be like power stare or like conscious stare.
What was that 3-day?
I was just gonna ask, is that him holding the claw hammer? Like,
Oh, no, that is the principal. The
Okay.
principal comes out of nowhere with the hammer, smokes the Jormungandr drawing.
and the one with the eye, it looks like in a way that is trying to use hockey. Whose eye is that? And
That's the snake.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the snake.
Yeah.
It looked really intense. Is the reason I asked.
Ooh,
And I
what
don't
if the
think
drawing
snakes
sound?
try to use like Conqueror's hockey.
But
Yeah,
see,
say
if
I have something to say. I'm gonna save it for later, though.
if this principal does in fact have a tooth devil fruit, which I'm not riding that agenda, I just think it's funny. But then that would make sense as to how he gave his hammer teeth as well. Just saying.
Oh, claw tooth hammer.
That's
It's got tusk.
crazy. But
Yeah,
there's
it's
not
called
a lot
tusk.
of Yeah, there's not a lot of like text here other than that crazy first named attack we get from Saul, which I'm so hyped to see him. Like we saw Dorian Brogy scrapping with literally the Gorosei on Egghead. Like I'm wondering how high does Saul's ceiling go? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm here for that. I need to see more of that, but it's mostly just action for this little section, but I love it. Like I didn't know I needed this, but I absolutely did need this, you know?
Yeah.
Also, did you guys get the scene with Mr. Wolf, the way he's on the ground? Gives you the vibe of Fisher Tiger after he got attacked and he was on the ship.
I didn't.
I didn't even think
all
of that.
all around him.
Interesting.
That is very interesting.
I'd have to
Especially with
look
all the
paneling.
parallels. Well, that brings us to the next page, actually.
Yep. Yeah, it really pops off here. Seems that like the kids, I don't know, like the way he screamed, like you mustn't touch the children. That whatever spell they're under, whatever's happening, whatever power that's influencing them is happening because like maybe one kid was under the effect and another kid went to wake him up and then went under the effect and it kind of passed on. That's why he's screaming, you can't touch them. You know what I mean?
Going from there, though, we see back out to the outside and we get the second introduction of the principal and get confirmation that he was part of Dorian Brogy's crew. He's a former giant pirate. And that is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. His
I'm not
weapon
gonna
is
add-
super cool. It's literally like a normal hammer. Like it has a nail puller on the other side. Stuff.
Yeah.
It's so
Those
funny.
claw tooths, baby. He's got them tusks on it. I'm telling
And then we
It's
get
so
another
cool.
descriptive name of Mr. Wolf.
you. Yeah. Gym teacher. You are so convinced that Ange is.
I didn't
Crazy.
mention it. I'm saying.
I thought it was really cool. I didn't even think about it when I was reading the chapter, but when I was watching Daxake's live reaction, he said, is this guy maybe potentially related to San Juan Wolf?
Yeah.
Which would be
Oh.
crazy. Because that's
That
another
is a great
giant,
point.
and that's a giant that ate a devil fruit. So I was like, yeah, like, and we know there's other places where giants can hail from. But this is just kind of interesting because like it gives me a little bit to think about. We don't get a good showing from him because dude's just like bloodied on the ground right here. But it's definitely, the door is still open on that, and I didn't even think of that, so I had to shout out to a friend of the channel, Daxake.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, now I kind of want to see some more from Mr. Wolf here. If he doesn't, expire
Yeah,
in this moment.
fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
With the way
Expire
that-
like milk. And that's-
Yeah.
I won't lie, with this, those 2 pages find out that he's another former giant warrior pirate. And remember back in the old garden when the works ages, I think Mr. Chu was talking about it. He was talking about the legend of how like they were demonic, like no one could stop them. I'm really curious
Yeah.
about the story of the giant warrior pirates because of it seems that they're not really retired because of new giant warrior pirates, but feels like a bit like the Roger pirates. They came to a certain conclusion, and like some of them found out about education. Others, like Dorian Brogy, were the others in the flashback little garden, were waiting for the sun god to arrive. So I'm very curious about their story because it does seem that there's a shift like the Roger pirates based on the original storyline. Like something changed for them.
That's spicy. Well, I think it was because Dory and Brogy. Like once Dory and Brogy started having their fight, after a while they've been like, okay, they're not coming back for a little bit. They're still fighting. You know what I mean? So like, it could be something like that where that is some of them went on to ELBAPH, some of them like Oimo and Kashi, and because they ended up getting caught. Yeah, it's very interesting. I would like to see a little bit more from the old giant pirates, the former giant pirates, I should say. But also, Saul did that attack with Chopper and Robin in his beard.
Oh god, that's
Bruce
great.
literally carrying the team. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, during that same conversation I had, Mr. Busho asked, he was like, well, who's going to protect Robin and Chopper? And I kept saying, Saul. Saul will protect them. Also, Robin can protect her. But she can hold back some people, you know, for a while, even if it is God's Nights, for at least 2 minutes. Like, but yeah, Saul's there. We got this. We got this.
Yeah, I agree. Well, actually, depending on how the end of the chapter unfolds, we'll see.
Yeah,
could be a completely different
see.
situation.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say this, those, especially those 2 pages. So for those 2 pages, what really happens is we kind of see that their kids are being like literally taken through their own, you know what I mean, like through hypnosis or something, like they're sleepwalking. And this kind of makes I'm happy because it brings back to this thing we've been always alluded to by Django, by other people, where the world government have this special innate ability. Even the Vice Admiral talking about Cavendish and Hakuba, where one falls asleep, another awakens. So I feel like we're finally getting into that part of, you know, mental piece or hypnosis piece or trance piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's quite interesting.
Yeah, it's something that, like, Django, it's a concept that Django introduced us back in the Syrup Village. It's been in the series for a long time. I am curious, though, Knack, you had brought up a while ago about the you mustn't touch the children thing.
Right.
So do you think it'll hurt them if it touches them? Like, not the kids, but like whoever touches them.
No, I think they'll fall into the same thing. They'll fall into the same sort of dream state, and then their greatest fears come out. Like, for him to scream, like, specifically not to touch them is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because, like, you'd think he'd want to stop them, and if that meant just grabbing all these kids and holding them still, that seems like an easy thing to do as a giant. But he specifically says, don't.
I think that, yeah, there's no way of them or us really knowing, but it's really interesting for that to entertain that as a possibility. But it could also just be something as simple as, like, everyone's always told, like, don't wake up somebody when they're sleepwalking. So it might just be that, you know, like, but
it could be.
There could be a lot more to it, and I think that's really, I don't know. I can't wait to see what Oda does with it.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I think I just cracked it. If you look at the panel where the children are walking forward, right? Look what's leading them.
Arrows.
Yeah, it's a little Gunko arrow.
It's a Gunko arrow. So what if they get close enough to the kids, that arrow starts messing them up, and that's what happened to Mr. Wolf.
I wondered the same thing. If the arrow would attack them or something. I know it's leading them, but...
It almost reminds me of the tale of the Pied Piper as well, where he led the rats out of the city or whatever, and then when they didn't want to pay him for his work and they all mocked him, he took all their kids or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, shout out to Tainted Marth. Tainted Marth brought that up in his live reaction.
Yes, he did.
And he specifically said that any other creator that talks about it stole it from him, and shame, something like that. I don't remember.
Dude, okay, I got a message, Martha, because I've not seen that, and me and him have been talking, and we always have the same theories, but we come to them, like, independently, so this is just another instance of that. Marth, if you're watching, why does this keep happening to us? Like, I'm a little concerned at this point. Are we the same person?
I would even add to what Sride was saying about, you know, not waking the kids, and that Sride was saying is, like, it kind of makes me think of the way Dory and Bragi were sure that they never seen creatures like the Gorosei and Egghead. Like, they must be immortals. We've never seen stuff like that. I'm also wondering if, in their experience, the giant warrior pirates met up with those type of abilities. It's just the Gorosei one is so unique. Like, I'm also wondering if the experience where they've seen it happen on another island and saw the consequences of, you know, waking them up.
Mm-hmm. So wait, do you think Wolf is also a giant warrior pirate? Like, formerly?
I mean, the fact that there's
I think we would have gotten over
the headmaster plus one of the biology teacher are both former giant warrior pirates. So as simple as, you know, he listened to them talk about some of their experience, you know, because they're putting their experience as knowledge. So it could be that he knows what happens. Maybe like maybe there's experience. Like
Yeah.
they know something about abilities like that. The way Dorian Broggy spoke about never seeing the Gorsi, like they've seen everything.
Maybe they don't claim him because he got his ass beat so much. I mean, look how he got messed up in this chapter.
Wild.
He's the
Crazy.
buggy. Is he the buggy
He's the
of the
buggy
giant,
of the giant warrior
pirate?
pirates.
Stop it. He was
We
protecting
were talking
children.
about. Yeah, we were talking about Gunko's arrows like leading them, and obviously that alludes to the Holy Knight's powers coming into play here, and I'm super curious to see like what and get it more into like what this whole sleep thing is, and I've got like a couple theories I definitely want to talk about like once we get a little further into it, but yeah, they mentioned that they want to like alert the entire country, and then somebody's just like, oh, don't you think it's like that's a little too much? And
Saul says that's too much.
It's I think it's interesting that most of the teachers have all been people who've seen the outside world, like pirates or Navy officers. They have experience in the outside world more than just somebody that's a citizen would, seems like.
Yeah, someone who's only been on ELBAPH.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad that Oda didn't do what he usually does, where we see Saul about to react here, and instead of cutting away from we just go right into what's going on.
Right.
Like him looking out at the woods and seeing more of the monsters and stuff like that. Like there's the giant bird and the wolf.
yeah, this blew my mind when I first saw this panel. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere for me. I was like, I right from the beginning, I was like, man, what is happening? But yeah, it was pretty wild, especially the look of the Fenrir beast.
Yeah, we've been mentioning this whole arc so far, like how like the sheer scale of things and the enormity of like the castle and just the giants and the village around them and stuff like that, and how the straw hats have been depicted as just like these little tiny dots. Well, now we see actual giants being depicted as dots,
as tiny dots. Yep.
Yeah, it's like this is crazy to me, because like just how big is ELBAPH, like for just creatures like this to just be like, it's like, again, Oda has no idea what a kilometer is. I'm just saying it right now. Like, this is crazy. I love you, Oda, but like, this is insane.
I thought of Courage the Cowardly Dog the first time I saw that giant thing. Why?
Sorry. I love Chopper jumping right into action. Like him getting into action, passing and whatnot. Like, go Chopper, dude. Go Dr. Up. That's my boy.
Redo that whole part, Lucas.
What? Did it cut out real bad? Oh, man.
Real bad.
I love Chopper down here at the bottom, just jumping into action. I love when Chopper does things that are just in his character. Like when he becomes a doctor, like Wano was really big for me for Chopper because of the way that he acted on the battlefield, saving friend and so I love to see him jump into action. And immediately when the children start like passing out, he's like, oh, yep, I'm gonna get down there and see if I can't help him. It's just, Chopper's my boy. And I love seeing that.
And he's so tiny too. It's like beyond his means. Like, I mean, how's he gonna help? I don't know.
Monster Point Doctor.
He's the smallest thing on this island right now, possibly.
He's like, I got you. I got you.
No, seriously, think about it, guys. Monster Point Doctor. He would have to go into Monster Point to be able to like anything to help the giants, even the kids. Like. Oh, I'm gonna see Monster Point. I'm getting so giddy right now thinking of that. But then we cut to the underworld. ELBAPH.
Bruh.
This
Guys, Loki's a menace. Hashtag
You want
Loki
to talk
did
about
nothing wrong.
you want to talk about scale here? I thought Haryuden and Loki are supposed to be like brothers, like at least half brothers. Bro is like 3 times as tall as Haryuden. That's crazy.
And Haruden's the closest person to our perspective. Like literally. It's nuts.
It's actually wild. Yeah.
It's nuts. People were trying to, pixel scale and say like, oh, Loki's 3 Haruden's. I don't know. If we're gonna go into that, I'll go into perspective and say that dude looks like the size of his boots.
Well, they've mentioned multiple times that Ors is roughly 3 times the size of normal giants. So if Haryuden is like a full grown and is comparable to like the whatever the scale is, whatever the metric is for like a normal giant's height, he should be about 3 times. I'm not trying to pixel scale, but just going off of what's been stated.
No, I
in the
feel you.
past,
I feel you.
know what I mean?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if
So I would
he
say, like,
turns to be a little bigger just by this panel.
Yeah, at least 3, and then the horns. I'm not even counting the horns. In that.
But we do know
calculation.
Oda. We do know Oda. We just spoke on this too with Oda. So we could get a panel next chapter where Haruden's like up to his shoulders, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
I won't lie, in this chapter, if you actually think of Marineford comparing the other giants to Ors Jr., it does seem that Loki is the Ors Jr. and Ors size level height.
Well, that's what Zoro said too. Straight up, last chapter, another mention of Thriller Bark. That's 2 in a row, where he was like, "This guy's the." He says, "This guy's the size of Ors." Like that's, we are shown that, and I'm just gonna be honest. I don't like this kind of terminology, but Loki's aura farming right now. Look at that. Look at that stance, dude. Look at that stance, dude.
He's pretty
and his
impressive.
feet, you thought leaving one leg trapped in sea prison stone?
I love the fact that the first things out of his mouth are about saving ELBAPH. If you want to save ELBAPH, get rid of this. And this kind of leads into the next page where, we see his actions. And I think this is straight out of Luffy's playbook. He's got something he wants to take care of. And he said, get rid of this chain. And nobody reacted. So he gets rid of it. And he doesn't really take into account the consequences of acting so rash. You know what I mean? Like, fire is going to be a problem for everybody. But he's like, no, I got business to take care of. You guys worry about the fire. I got to go save ELBAPH.
What's crazy is like when he first drew back his hammer on this next page, it looks like hockey coming out of it. But then when he strikes the tree, it's like this dude summoned lightning from the sky. It's like Mjolnir almost, except it's named Ragnir. But like, it's straight up lightning strikes. Is that his hockey? Is I guess what I'm trying to get. Is that his?
Or is that the hammer?
Actual lightning? Or is that the hammer? Yeah. Like, what is going on? Is Ragnir an electricity dragon? Like, what? What's going on? I need to know. I need answers.
The tree and out, but it's coming from the sky. Y'all are saying?
I think it's coming out of the hammer, or from the sky, both.
Yeah, I see. This is classic impact framing too with Oda. Like, that's not specific. That shot we see of the tree, with all the what we're calling lightning right now isn't specific. We could see that in more context and be like, oh yeah, that was a hockey blast or whatever. But I love the idea of it being electricity, just the connections to Norse mythology and lightning being such a prominent reference there. And it is Loki. And if he has a hammer that acts like Thor's hammer, that would just be poetic in a sense.
Hockey doesn't have
sword too. It had went through that too.
Yeah, so that's why I said, like, when he first brings it up, it looks like hockey. But then when he smacks it down, look, these little zzz coming off of it. Hockey doesn't have that. When he draws hockey, he doesn't give it that kind of sound effect. And then we see on this larger panel of the tree, when the lightning is striking, on the left-hand side, there's also hockey lightning, which Oda draws very specifically.
It kind of gives me the vibe of... Yeah. No, I agree. It kind of gives me the vibe that the feats that we've seen Doflamingo and Nell do. Use the Delfoot and in conjunction with the clouds to manipulate to a certain extent. One was
Luffy
to
did the
create,
same thing.
lightning. Yeah, exactly. Luffy just grabbed lightning, so it kind of makes you think it might be both. You know what I mean? Like using his hammer with Haki to influence the cloud and just releasing. Like maybe his abilities doesn't create lightning at all. Is that just a food for thought? But it does
Yeah,
seem
of
like
course.
there's a connection between both.
Oh, God, guys, this is intense. I'm not gonna lie. This whole 2 pages right here just gives me chills. Zoro looks so tense. Luffy he's figuring out now that he was betrayed. Like,
I don't think
Maybe.
that's what Luffy's really processing right there. Like Loki
No,
literally
'cause if
opened up by saying, if you want ELBAPH to be saved, free me. And he was fully on board to fully free him. And Zoro was the one who's like, let's keep one-legged. Like, I think Luffy's
Yeah.
just like in
awe.
moment.
enamored by like the full spectacle of what just happened.
What-
I don't think he's feeling the least bit betrayed right now.
That's exactly where I'm at.
No,
with
I don't
it.
think it's betrayal.
Loki's
I think-
more taken aback by the sheer damage, the power of this guy.
yeah. Yeah.
And,
Well,
there's a parallel
I
scene
don't
between
think
Marine
betrayal. 1 second, Cube. Sorry. I don't think it's betrayal because in the page before, Luffy's saying "hey" to him, and it's that kind of like "hey, like what are you doing?" That he does, and so I think that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that like I think he's starting to catch on that like he may have made a mistake.
I don't think so.
So not necessarily betrayal, but I do think that you are also right that he's also in awe of Loki's powers. Cube, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, I think that's why I agree more with Neck and Vex in that. I don't think he's realizing that he messed up. It's more like in Marineford, he was focused on doing his stuff, and then suddenly Whitebeard did that crazy feat where he just like parted the sea in 20 ways, remember? Like there are different levels of the sea. And for a brief second, he just had the same face. And then it took him a second to really concentrate. I think it's more like the power. Like he felt, it's like some people, Shaki made that same comment in Sabaody, be able to feel, or Big Mom as well, be able to feel the level of Haki. It could be that he sensed the difference. Suddenly it went from, I don't know, level 100 to level 10 billion, in Haki level. So he just
And we've
felt the
seen
power.
like
Oh my God.
how he reacts when a betrayal is shown to him. You know what I mean? He doesn't. I
That's
think he'd be
true.
a lot more aggressive, a lot angrier.
These
Okay.
these
I can concede to
individuals these individuals have no clue, like specifically these Straw Hats, Sanji, Luffy, and Zoro have no clue how dangerous lightning or fire is, because that was only told to Frankie. Yes, Haryuden and his crew know, but they haven't said anything about it. Loki just like casually is just like, this is the one weakness, and like how do they know that? They don't. So like
Yeah.
I don't think they're really grasping how crucial of a situation this is. They're just seeing this dude flex, and that's what their reaction is. With Haryuden and the new Giant Warrior Pirates, they understand fully how much gravity there
Roto.
is to this
They're
situation.
terrified. Yeah.
Look
But
at
the-
Roto
Agreed.
though. He is calm. It's crazy.
He's really.
Oh, I
calm.
gotta zoom in on that because that is really interesting. He's straight faced. Wow.
Almost like trauma. That's what it makes me think of is like PTSD. Like if a soldier who has survived war like 15 years later came back and there was war, like like it saw war again, and instead of like freaking out, he just
Stanson and Harden are losing it, and he has been freaking out for like 14 chapters in a row, and he's just stood there.
This makes me think, because we got mention last chapter, I believe, of lightning came down and struck the branch where Haugen village was, and they had to, so like, was Loki behind that specific instance? And we don't have like a hard timeline of when that happened, but if that was also a Loki thing, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe it's an L, or maybe it's dragon, or like there's all these agendas. This is the most obvious thing that I think we can assume it was.
even
Is
if he was a
Loki-
child, man.
Because otherwise, how are these people gonna know this is such a serious situation unless maybe they've seen it before?
Right.
3D, I believe you had something to say.
Yeah.
I was gonna say right before that, he says, "Better hurry up." if I keep landing blast, eventually it'll hit something. He's saying it like he's already done it a few times before we see the panel where he hit it. And my question is, why is he just hitting a tree? Why is he not really attacking somebody or the ground? Is there's something specific? Is that how the power works? Because it's definitely lightning and hockey. But yeah, I'm just wondering why it has to be the tree. Is there something to that?
My first assumption was that's what he's
the
chained
part
to.
of the tree. Exactly. Yeah. That's where his restraints are like holding him down to. So like if you can't break the chain itself, you can break what the chain is bound to, you know.
You'll never break the chain.
Fleetwood Mac. I do think. Oh, go ahead, Cube.
I was gonna say, what if it's because of what Srida is saying is that, what if there's more to it? You know, like in the same chapter, the people at the school are saying we have to warn the island. What if it's Loki's way of, you know, he made all those comments of it's a place of warland. What if it's like a war call, you know, in a way like before he unleashes himself. But it does feel like it as well, like
it was his only way of
drums of
warning.
liberation.
It was the only way to warn everyone at the time, he thought. I'm wondering that too.
It makes thank you very much. It makes me think that maybe he didn't attack them and he's attacking the tree. One, like Fleetwood Mac said, trying to break the chain. But two, it could be more evidence towards what we as a crew have been saying and kind of memeing about, that Loki did nothing wrong. He's not trying to attack them. His goal is to destroy the world, and to him the world is ELBAPH. So why would he attack his brother and these guys that just set him free when he can destroy the world, which is his goal?
I would play counter to that and say he's out to get Shamrock right now, and he's not wasting any time. He's like, Luffy, you hurt my friends, I'm gonna deal with you, and I'm not really thinking about the consequences of what I'm doing. So I don't think he's the smartest guy. I think like him setting fire right now, I don't think this was intentional. He's just like, I gotta get the chain off, smash, and then like, oh, like crap.
Free me before it gets worse.
Yeah, I didn't mean to start this fire, but I got stuff to do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I think is really interesting is the way that this is kind of paneled and the way that we see it with this initial strike of his hammer is there's a lot of wind up, and you know, Haryuden's right there saying, stop it, Loki. And something that I think would elicit this reaction out of Luffy and Zoro and the rest of them is what's really, really crazy is that the leg that is shackled, we don't see. It's behind the hammer. And we know that Harold had pulled off his own horns. What if Loki didn't intentionally strike the tree to break the chains, but his own leg?
Oh god.
Man.
And that would elicit these reactions here. I think entirely. Right, like if this dude just like and that would feed into hashtag Loki did nothing wrong. So until confirmed, that's my agenda. I'm here for that.
That would tie into Zoro trying to cut his leg off when he was in the candle wax.
Yes.
Right.
Ooh. Let's go.
Even better, the two characters we know who cut off their own leg, Zeth and Kiros, did it because they were chained. And that leg was chained up.
Shiki did it
Shiki
too,
as well.
right?
Yeah, Shiki as well. Episode 0, you're right. Shiki as well. Also,
so there's
examples.
I think it would really speak like crazy volumes to his character if he did this to free himself so that he could go and save ELBAPH, and it was just it was collateral damage that a fire started on the tree, but it was really an act of sacrificing to preserve ELBAPH. Like
he's more powerful than Heroes.
His leg that's planted on the ground is the one with the chain on it. If you look at the frames before, or in the panels before, he only has one ring around the boots. So that second ring on that foot on the ground is the chain. We just don't see the chain part of it. We just see the cuffling.
I had an observation. I was just thinking if it was all about summoning lightning, why didn't he just lift it up to summon it? Well, he does actually do that. He lifts it up and it shows a little lightning on there. So it does kind of remind me of the Thor stuff.
Great catch
He's
on that
actually
panel.
summoning it and then striking the tree.
Yeah, because we get Harden's reaction first to the hammer raising up in the air.
Yeah.
I like that a
He
lot.
knew what was going to happen.
And the way that Oda draws the lightning, like up in, especially in like the top right corner. I know we're like lightning scaling right now, but
It's fine.
it's so different than the other bits of lightning he ever draws. Like I don't know, something about it is just different to me. Because obviously since Haki's introduction, we've seen a plethora of lightning throughout the story. But yeah, it's something. There's just something different about that upper right lightning, and when he's drawing it up into the sky. Because, like I said, there's those little black lightning bits coming off. That's definitely Haki. But then, what is that big piece like above it? That's like gray.
I've seen people
Yeah.
suggest. I can't remember who it was that like it went down the sword. Like the sword acted like a lightning rod, and you don't see the sword in the panel with the tree. So that's an interesting.
Because
they're
Oda
never
forgot it
gonna mention
existed.
Yeah, they're
Yep.
never gonna bring it up. Yeah.
I said that earlier. It went through the sword. That's what I meant. You couldn't even see it, but it was there.
But one thing that I
I'm
thought
on
was
over it.
really funny about this panel is that it brought to light just how many of One Piece fans don't know how lightning works. I've been hearing some crazy stuff where people are just like, "That's not how lightning works." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is." Like,
That is exactly how lightning works.
It really did seem like he was charging up, though, when he lifted it up. He was like charging the hammer or something. I don't know how to put it.
No, I love that. I
And
think
then-
that's exactly what was happening. I didn't realize.
I think
Like-
so too.
When I'm going through these chapters, sometimes the big panel catches me first, and then I gotta scan through the page again. But like the order of the paneling really shows that like Harden freaked out to the raising of the hammer, knowing something big was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, once you pointed that out to me, I've not stopped hyperfixating on it now. Because I didn't notice that at first. I thought it was just him being like, oh, stop it. Like, like normal. But he knows what's about to happen. And that's spicy.
I feel like we're right on the story of everything happening with Loki and the Gods Night. I think it's a good time to get Rouge to finally show up. Where are you, bro? Been waiting.
Yeah.
Where are you, Rouge?
Exactly. Where are you?
Big Sissa Rouge.
Where are you?
Where are you? My missing supernova. Cannot. No, okay. We
you can
cut
cut
back
all
from.
that out.
I'm gonna.
No, please don't. We cut back to the Walrus School from all that hype that was the Loki interaction to go into more hype. As
Oh,
we
hype.
see the
All
trader,
chapter.
the trader Ange somehow recognizes the other one.
Boo.
But no,
Let's
it gives
hear
us
it.
this little flashback of how
Let's
Ange
hear
was
it.
feeding the children these monsters so that they could create them and be brought to life. No, I'm sorry. No, we do see that Ange is correlating whatever the children had been drawing in class earlier in the day with the monsters. And I'm gonna go ahead to the next panel page just because of what it is. We do see in a double page spread that the monsters do match what the children were drawing. One child drew Nika. We have a devilish form of Nika in the sky. This is insane. This is legitimately insanity.
I'd like to challenge a thought that I've ever thought ever since we were introduced to Sugar's fruit. What if they don't have control? Basically, when Sugar transformed people into toys, we all assume she was choosing the toys. But Kiros, for some reason, who did not get a contract, and he had a rebellious will, obviously, towards the Flamingo. He was a toy soldier, opposing them. He had ammunition, weapons. So it kind of makes you think, especially with the last panel where Gonko talks about Nika. It kind of makes me think of however that Elfwood works. It just turns. It's a bit like in Harry Potter. I think they're called Bogarts or whatever they are, where they basically take someone's dream, someone's nightmare, to scare them with it. I'm wondering if it's like an ability they can't control the creations themselves. Whoever's the victim, their dreams becomes a nightmare. That would be interesting,
It makes me wonder if defeating them is about like trying to defeat the Gorosei, that they actually regenerate or they don't die unless the kids actually face their fears inside their dream. And that's the only way to destroy them, unless the devil fruit user ends the nightmare.
Well, also with the devil fruit, do you think that there has to be that visual component? Like he uses the children's drawing specific, right, to conjure
I don't think
these.
I don't think that's really necessary. I'm not like so fixated on like the art aspect because that's too similar to Conjuro's fruit in my opinion. I think that it's more just the fear.
Yeah,
the fear itself.
Because they do look different at times.
And the fact of we had two people, one talking about Nika as a inspiration and one talked them as a nightmare. And then look at that Nika form in the last page. It does not look. It looks like the Nika Destroyer than the Nika Liberator.
Well, if we want to hop right into
it has
the
Moria's
last
face
page,
on it almost.
I mean,
It looks almost like Moria's smile.
yeah, it does.
Nightmare Nika.
It's interesting that they're fighting about Loki and Nika when that's the duality between them, is him saying that he wants to destroy the world and he's Nika, and Luffy's supposed to be Nika too, but he's not wanting to destroy it in that way. Not in the same way, at least. He's supposed to be bringing it on.
It's
right.
I don't know. It's so interesting of a power. Like, I have so many questions about how it works. Obviously, it's tied to whatever mythical creature he is, or whatever yokai he is. I tried to do some loose research on seeing if there was any kind of dragons that affected dreams and things like that. I know that there's one in the comic book Sandman, but besides that, I couldn't find really anything else about it. It's very perplexing. I
kind of makes you. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I need to see more from killing him.
I think it's a combination of two different abilities, and I'm not convinced either of them is a devil fruit because I'm kind of on the same like speed with like what these guys might be capable of as the Gorosei. Like we did get a confirmation of Gunko's devil fruit, so that I'm sold because we got an Oda box of it, but this could be something else entirely possibly. And one thing that I think is really interesting is that Sommers and Killingham having this little back and forth here. Sommers seems like he's also in play, and like so if half of this is Killingham's power and half of it is Sommers' power, possibly, and if they were specifically brought together because their powers work in tandem, and like the Latin word for sleep is literally like somnus, like so like insomnia comes from that, and so if Sommers might be what's behind specifically the
kidnapping,
the sleeping aspect, whereas like the nightmares are maybe Killingham, and then the arrows are what are leading the kids, and that's Gunko. So if this is like a combination of all three of these Holy Knights abilities,
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, speak. You got it.
I was just thinking that I don't know if we're talking about still on that last page or that one or not, but I know it was last chapter when he was. No, he's dozing off and talking here. I wondered if it was kind of like the reason he's like that is because he's trying to blur the lines between reality and the dream world, and that's why he's not totally asleep, no, not totally awake, and
Like
that's
that a
why
lot,
the
too.
dreams and nightmares can be brought to life into this world.
He's Freddy Krueger.
Kind of gives me the vibe of Impel Down. You know, they're facing the Magellan. You know, it was literally another version of hell. The pre-time underworld, if you prefer. And to be able to bypass that, Mr. Street Fruit worked in conjunction with Luffy's body. You know, he made that, you know, Gomu Gomu no champion. Kind of gives me the vibe of they're two fruits. Like whatever makes the fear aspect work so well is the other person's aspect. You know, maybe one puts people to sleep, and one takes out the fears.
Right.
You know, and maybe it's stronger if the person is unconscious.
I like all this. I love the I'm loving the list of creatures and legends they referenced when they were talking about their fears, like the Draugr being the ancient protectors of old and past warriors. We have like the Nidhogger. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. I'm probably butchering it, but it's like this worm type lightning dragon that attacks the world tree in Norse mythology. So that's interesting. And then we got my mom. And then you go to the panel and you see the little shot of like what looks like Big Mom in the bottom left of the silhouette. It's hilarious.
Crazy. So we see the Draugr is obviously this little skeleton dude at the bottom, and then there's the Big Mom parallel. Then the ghost is like above them next to the Nika. Then Fenrir is this big old wolf with the Scooby-Doo tongue. Loki. Then Storms is like this cloud up here, and then we have the Nidhogg, which is this big old lizard with its Scooby-Doo tongue. But what are these other two things that aren't really listed? There's this big burb and this little bear thing.
And then the thing on the left too. What's that?
But guys,
With the
Jormungandr is the serpent.
That's ghosts.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Ghost. Okay.
Jormungandr is the serpent.
They already took out Jormungandr. This is the Nidhogg, which is like a electric wyvern dragon thing.
Okay. And then we have
so
the bear.
Bird.
Mole
this bird
thing.
and this bear thing are the only two that aren't really accounted for in the little drawing panel.
I'm gonna unless if we're talking for the bear, you're talking about the creature all the way on the right, right? The closest to the right. I'm gonna say this might be a W2 Daxake, because that looks just like the dirt boss where he did his face off.
Exactly.
The helmet, the claws, it kind of looks like the dirt boss, but yeah, yokai form.
I was gonna bring that up. I was. That does. You're on it, Cube.
Yeah.
I have a question now for all of you, because of what Sabo's comment about, I didn't know hell was on top, and the Gorsei being yokais, and now this. Can it be safe to assume if Nika's power is all about dreams? What if Imu's power, the source of powers, is nightmares? But it is starting to get a theme of nightmarish, with all of it now.
Kind of hitting the nail on the head with what we're seeing here now, but I don't know if that's going to be the extent of Emu's powers. I'll say that.
Oh yeah, no, obviously. Yeah. Like, if there's a yin and a yang, Emu and Nika, like, one takes the darkness and one takes the light, kind of thing.
Yeah, I follow that.
The craziest thing to speculate about here is to what strength these creatures are, like, because if they are like to scale, and like if these giant warriors are looking like flies in the face of like these, like, I don't, this is insane to me to think about how potentially powerful they could be. Or is this just like physical light, kind of like how we saw like a kaiju fighting a giant robot on Egghead, and that wasn't real, it just looked real.
And they are
semi-tangible. Yeah, so like I'm wondering if this is like what the actual, is it like they're as powerful as the fear of the child that is kind of the conduit to them? Because if this is like an actual Loki and an actual Nika, then we have two of these hammers to worry about, not just one. And like that's like a dark sun god, like, so that's like just a full counter to Luffy potentially, right? And like if that's like a legitimate Big Mom, right? Like are each of these Yonko level threats, or is this gonna be something that just gets like off screened? Because like with Oda, it could go either way. Let's be real.
They should have some kind of weakness. I'm thinking, and the reason I think that's not actually Big Mom now, which I did at first, is because they did mention Storm and one mentioned a storm, and one mentioned their mom. But I have a question about that one that looks like Big Mom. She looks like she has one eye. Are they Cyclops in this series now? Is his mom a
That'd be
Cyclops?
sick. That'd be
That would be
sick.
sick.
I've been
It's a real question. Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Well, there's been god powers revealed, so why not Titan powers? And the Cyclopes were Titans. I'm actually all for that too. And that goes in with like I don't know, like Gigantomachia and Titanomachia and stuff like that. It was like the destruction of the world by like different forms, and like the war between the gods and the Titans and the giants.
Like, what is it? It's typhoons and earthquakes and things like that, but they have like physical form. Also, the thing on the far left isn't a ghost. The ghost is up by the storm, so that's something else. The little hat horn thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, for the
If
Big
that
Mom
is a
one-
Big Mom parallel, then there could just be like a bunch of homies as well. Like, I don't know. It's interesting to look at the coloration though, because some of them are like silhouette adjacent colored, and then some of them actually do have like that's why I was looking at the bird and the bear mole thing specifically, because other than the cloud, they seem to be like the only like non darkened forms here. And then I guess Loki, right?
Yeah.
I like how the kid drew Loki with a beard.
My thing with the Big Mom looking one is something that Will brought up with Sir Village like a few months ago. Will of Dreams, friends of the channel. When the three kids are with Nami and Zoro, while Usopp went to see Kai and Luffy followed him, they were a bit scared of Zoro, and Zoro was like making like we might eat you. He was trolling them. And then they talk about their nightmare, which is a ghost story that they hear in their village. Their parents told them about, and it's about this old hag, this witch that stays in caves and attracts children to eat them. Which obviously are village, but it's a big foreshadowing of Mother Caramel, Big Mom storyline, but also this stuff. So I'm wondering if like they were talking about that creature.
Mm-hmm.
That's back in Sir Village.
I'm just gonna say, because we keep mentioning Big Mom, guys, that's not Big Mom. I hope everyone knows that. But
That's
is
Old Mom. That's Old
It
Mom.
is
Big Mom. It's a big mom as well. It's a giant mom.
I wanted to go over like one thing is like these kids, some of these kids might be basing their fears more on just like folk tale and mythology as opposed to reality. So like being afraid of storms in a place where lightning could burn down your whole country, that's realistic. That makes sense.
Yeah, valid.
So that fear I totally get. And Loki is a looming threat that lives beneath you every second of the day. And so like that's a real actual fear as well. They kind of go hand in hand, like for obvious reasons, right?
Right.
And then being afraid of your mom, that's a real fear. I get that one as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Same.
all of the rest of these though, I don't know, like, so I'm thinking those are going to be maybe the more powerful of these entities because they are based more in like factual, like reality, like, whereas these others, or maybe I have it completely flipped, and because those things actually exist, they will be weaker because the fears like Fenrir and Jormungandr and like the Nidhogg and ghosts and Nika, those are like, they're not actually based on anything tangible, whereas the other things are. So maybe that means that they have less boundaries and they can be more bizarre because like the whole power of imagination. Or maybe it means that they are like, maybe that's the weakness, is because there's no actual tangible thing for that fear to, it's just folklore, then it's easier to dispel that. So I don't know, I'm wondering how that will all play out.
Yeah,
Are we
this whole
sure that's
aspect.
true, though? Is it really not real stuff? Is it myths or not? Because it could be actually things that they know really do exist somewhere or did at one point.
Or had exist, yeah. What
Yeah,
I was
I
going to say is
love
I
that
really,
We know
I really
Nika,
think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
we know Nika is something that they all talk about, but none of them have ever actually experienced. Like it, that's just like word of mouth, you know, that's just folklore. And I'm just assuming that the other proper nouns here, aside from Loki, who we literally see in the flesh here right now in the current era. So I'm assuming the rest of these proper nouns are just mythological beings similar to Nika. Could they have existed at one point in time? Yes. But do we have anything current in the present day and era that is tangible to base them off of? No, except now we have Luffy to pair with Nika. But how many of these kids know about that? Probably none. So that's where my line of thinking was. Sorry, Lucas, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I really think that you're on something with the fear-based mechanism of Killingham's Devil Fruit, where maybe the fear is what's giving these things their power. It's very reminiscent of Stephen King's It, like Pennywise, like that's what gives him power is the fear. So having that come into play with a devil fruit as well would be god level of Oda. And I think it's kind of the opposite, though, of what you're saying. Maybe the ones that are based in reality, like the mom, the storm, Loki, the ghost, they are weaker than the other ones because the fear of the unknown is greater than the fear of the known. You know where storms come from. You know why they're scary because they cause fire. Fire will destroy ELBAPH. You know why your mom's scary. She yells at you. She throws her sandals at you. Like, there's less power. Yeah, there's less power in knowing the thing that you're in fear of than the unknown is basically what I'm getting at. Like, so maybe those folklore elements, the Jormungandr, the Fenrir and stuff, because they are folklore, even if they had existed at one point in time, which I think is a very strong possibility, I think that having that unknown factor to it makes it worse.
Well, one aspect of this, I think, like, I don't really, honestly, like, it'd be cool if they do exist, but the fact that these legends exist in canon is what I find so interesting. The fact that kids know about the story of Jormungandr, kids know about the story of what the Draugr are, and they know of, like, what, Vex, can you pronounce this word for me again?
Needhog.
There you go. The fact that they know of these legends is the compelling thing to me, because as soon as Bonnie started believing in Nika, she gained power. And if, like, the fact that they believe these things, like, they probably didn't exist realistically. They're just maybe folk tales that got turned, or, like, in our, like, same way our own world twists stories up, like, these things may have not existed realistically, but the fact that children believe in them makes them real right now.
Yes.
So for me, it kind of makes, since I've always talked a few times where when Roger told about his dream, what if Whitebeard was literal when he said, bro, that's a chill story, that's a child story, like, it's like, what if he was being literal, and like, what if the reason why Big Mom took the moniker Big Mom, maybe she knew about a legend about this powerful entity that was called Big Mom, like, it kind of makes me think of maybe this is the reason why Nolan's story that we know was true but heavily altered was in the Bragman books. Like, what if the Bragman book is a way of telling you what's the ones that are real and the ones that are not, because they also talk, I think, about in the Ace novel, when they talk about the Bragman book, Ace talks about this story about this legendary guy that is known as the hero of Little Garden, the content puller, and he's described to be someone who had the ability to become bigger than most giants, but he wasn't a giant, and then he got cut off in the Ace novel, which kind of makes you think of Luffy's abilities, So it's like, now I'm wondering if, like, what if some of those books, maybe that was Clover doing, is trying to educate them, and there might be a reason why Void Century happened and why propaganda piece also happened, It's like, it's getting really interesting.
Especially with like, Louis R not being mentioned earlier in the arc as well. It's very specific for Bragman. Yeah, that's very spicy, Cube. I like that a lot.
And we know that the Nolan story is in it, and we have the same context if you think of a Nolan story, because the whole thing in Nolan story is about a guy that lied about a golden city. that apparently
Yeah.
just disappeared, and then we found out the Golden City is in the sky and it actually exists. So it kind of makes you think of, there might have been a campaign of like creating, like, think about it, the story of Warrior of the Sea. It is a story written by the world government, but for some reason, Judge likes that story's out there. It might be heavily influenced, changed around. Like maybe the hero of the Sword of Warrior of the Sea isn't the hero but the villain, and it's the other people who are the heroes. It's like it's quite interesting.
On what Vex was saying too, I think he was mentioning the shading, and if it plays into the belief system and making them stronger, do you think that the shading might represent which ones are more solid and more based into the reality here?
I think anything's kind of on the table. Like that's why I presented that it could be that maybe the ones based on something more tangible could be harder to dispel because that something tangible is there to anchor them, or maybe they're the weaker ones because, like Lucas said, the fear of the unknown and the power of imagination. So I think like kind of anything's on the table, but it's an interesting thought for sure. But while we're talking about like the mythos and like folklore of it all and things getting passed down through the ages potentially, like we really do have to think about the mural and the silhouetted figures that we saw there, and how everything we can assume that everything past, present, and future is probably going to tie into it in some form or another. And these actually could be beings that are reminiscent of some of those three major beings that we saw present on the mural. The huge silhouetted, like they look like catastrophe level, like planet destroying potentially, or like like beings. And I'm not really sold on it, but what's really interesting is that if the world government was kind of spinning their yarn trying to get people to believe in something, because like you said, when somebody believes something, we have precedents in the story that kind of strengthens and solidifies its actual existence. It's like the law of attraction. But what if the mural was maybe like an ancient kingdom, like way of fighting fire with fire? Like, okay, well, if you're going to, tell your side of it, we'll tell ours. So like, it kind of goes hand in hand with what Daffy said, like history is, determined by the victor.
Yep.
But like, if there's a way of them leaving something that is undisturbed, like the poneglyphs or like the mural, and able to kind of keep alive their vision of how things were as well, like that could be their own way of like you brought up Nolan the Liar, and I think that's a perfect segue into like this kind of like other point that I was going to try and tie this to, is like they threw dirt on his name specifically so that everybody would not believe in him, but they can't throw dirt on this.
Right.
And that could also tie to Usopp, who's somebody who we've seen make lies come to life and into reality. And like Oda even put that on like a cover story or like a color spread, right? Like lies turn to reality. So that's what I'm really interested in. I know Dak cooked for a minute in his live reaction about the artistic aspect of what these powers could be relating. I'm not so fixated on the kids' drawings, but I am definitely wondering about the mural, as well as maybe potentially Usopp's crucial involvement. Possibly.
And I love that. And not only that, but just to tie this directly to the mural, what was it Gerd had said about the mural? It could all be a child's dream.
Yep.
It was Ripley.
Ripley. My bad.
Yeah.
But right.
Mama Ripley.
I'm gonna bring up another point. You're saying, is it possible, call back to the mural? Well, think about this. There was another scene that was pretty impressive in the mural. Is that lightning strike hitting that tree? We had that 3 panels ago with Loki's attack on the tree.
Exactly.
Like, it does feel like those events are there's something common with the mural. I would agree.
Guys, do you think killing him is Usopp's matchup then? I don't know why, but when you said that, Vex, you were talking about like the lies and everything and how this is tying into it, which I love. I'm not gonna lie, that is probably the best thing I heard this whole discussion, guys. Vex won.
I had a conversation with friends of the channel, SSJ, Cody, Dexter, and Kush Daddy, and it was it was crazy because I'm pretty sure that's everybody who was there. Sorry if I missed you, but
Do it
it's been a
again, but
crazy
call them
week.
reviews with bro.
No, if you know, you know. But I was having a conversation with him, and I was wondering if possibly this power that whatever Killingham is showing could be kind of like a foil, like an inversion or something kind of parallel, or a little column A, little column B of Perona's power. And what if the Straw Hats are so steadfast in their belief that Luffy will become the Pirate King, and like, what if none of them have a tangible greatest fear, but Usopp does? And what if this is a power that only works against Usopp, and Usopp is like, his fears alone were something that is like, you know, island destructive level, and none of the Straw Hats, not even like Gear 5 Luffy, can do anything against Usopp's fears until he overcomes them and becomes a brave warrior of the sea.
Ooh,
Right.
I like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
so
to
instead
add to
of
that-
like him being the only one impervious to Perona's powers, he would be the only one actually susceptible to whatever Killingham's powers are possibly. I think that would be so cool.
Kind of to add to that, I was thinking, you know, everybody seemed to not even notice those monsters until they were told they were there, that they existed. I just wonder.
That's
and
what I
telling
was
them.
wondering. We were talking yesterday about
Spoken
it too,
into
and like
existence.
speaking about how we felt about the chapter, and one of the first thoughts is, how come I didn't get a reaction from the village about all this stuff? Like, these creatures are so big, you'd think there'd be some sort of reaction, but if they just like actually
they're all gone.
manifested where they are.
Yeah, they're all drunk, bro.
They're all done. No, they're checked out.
They hit the green fairy too hard. If they saw that, they'd be like, "Oh, yep, time to lay off the absinthe."
I did have to
Seeing-
point out. Oh,
Seeing all of this, they might just be unalive. Like, I hate to say it, but go ahead, 3-Day.
I'm sorry. It's just that Knack had mentioned something about the panels with the monsters in it, and I got to looking in the first one. There's only 2 monsters, and on the last panel, when Ange joins, there's a bunch of monsters.
Oh my god.
Oh.
All right, guys.
So, I actually have one last thing, and you mentioned it, and I needed to. It made me think of it. You said there could be an inspiration of it. I'm gonna say this: what if there's an inspiration of Nightmare on Elm Street with Fred Krueger?
I
Yeah.
mean, it could be.
You know,
Oh,
you know, it only works inside people's dreams. You know, the kids. What if, you know, it works similar, and there's some inspiration from that? A boogeyman.
Yeah,
Probably.
Oda was a teenager in the 80s and 90s, like early 80s or late 80s, early 90s. So like those movies would have been popular even in Japan. Like I could definitely see it.
Yeah, they have to be asleep for a reason. I mean, I don't know any other reason than
Oh, well, I
maybe,
think. Oh, go
maybe it
ahead.
just ties into their whatever they're dreaming about. I'm wondering. I just kind of wonder if they're at this moment dreaming about those monsters, and I actually had wondered if they could actually see what was going on this side too or not. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to play into all that, but
Yeah. I have to agree with Vex. I think that Sommers has something to do with it as well. I think
I love
he's the
it.
reason they're asleep, like Vex had said, and then Killingham is the one causing the fears to come to life. Yeah, that just makes too much sense. And then Gunko, like, because if the God's Knights are supposed to be, or the Holy Knights are supposed to be like this end-all be-all force for Marie Joie, it would make sense that they know how to use their devil fruit so intrinsically tied together that they can move as one, even when it's all of them.
I
Like,
mean,
that's a
Shamrock's comment.
huge threat, because we've never seen that before. We've never seen people use their devil fruit so perfectly well in tandem like that. So that is massively threatening to the Straw Hats. Go ahead, Cube. Sorry.
I was gonna say, if you think about it, this could explain why Shamrock did not say it because we have Gonko's power or we have Summer's power. He said because of our joint powers, we can make a very fun game here. Like, it kind of makes you think that it's more than one ability working together.
they're all playing the game together then.
Yeah.
I think it's crazy we've gone this entire time talking about just these last two like major like the full last spread and then but the last like 4 pages together. None of us have really brought up in full detail that whole line at the end. It's like, hey Gunko, what are you afraid of?
Yeah, none of us have mentioned that. Nika. Which
That
means
is
that
crazy.
it's not only the Gorosei and Emu who knows about Nika and the legend of Nika. That means that the God's Knights also know. Yeah, like that's crazy.
I definitely would have figured the Holy Knights know about Nika, but like for that to be this person's greatest fear and for them to openly admit it, it's like, I don't know, there's like a lot of depth here and I don't know how to really read it. It's definitely, there's like there's a couple ways that it could be interpreted and I'm waiting for more context on that, but it's like, it's such a interesting, because seeing their personalities kind of like bounce off of each other like this, like Gunko is very like hostile, to the point and direct and blunt and harsh almost, and then Sommers is just a chill guy, you know. He's just making conversation and then Gunko just drops the freaking hammer and I'm like, I can only imagine there's like one hella awkward silence after that, but it's funny to me, you know what I mean?
Well,
Sommers is quoting poetry, Gunko's like, I'm terrified.
I have
another chance of them bringing up the word love again too is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I was gonna say, there's just the whole Gonko thing. There's 2 questions I'm asking myself on how Gonko knows. Is it Gonko old enough to have experienced Nika, destruction Nika, or it's something that we've seen with Corazon? Remember, Corazon admitted that they hear nightmare stories of the D and how they're gonna come for the celestial dragons. So don't tell the Flamingo about you have the D in your name. He'll just unalive you just finding out about that. And when he found out that in Dressrosa, we saw his face. It was the first time we saw like lose his composure. So my question is this: is it just based off fairy tales as she was growing up as a god knight, being indoctrinated, or is it like first-hand experience of seeing Nika's destructive power? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah,
what is it?
Because we have no idea how old Gunko is. There's a lot of speculation that she may be a cyborg. We don't know if cyborgs age in this universe or if they stay young longer. Like there's a real possibility that that is the case, or that, like I had just said jokingly, like there's been some people theorizing that maybe Emu is seeing through Gunko right now, and like I'm not a big fan of that, but saying Nika is your biggest fear is something Emu might say.
Yeah, it's like, it's massive, you know, it's not a small thing.
Yeah, it's massive. Yeah. And it makes me think, though, like I said, I do not believe that Emu is working through Gunko. I think Gunko is their own person and everything. What if they're tied closer, though, to Emu than what we think? They have the concentric circle on one of their eyes, and that has thrown me through a loop since their introduction. But this just, I mean, there's so many possibilities of why Nika is her greatest fear.
I mean, there is something interesting, you know, the comment of Shanks, chapter 19, about every devil fruit are different versions, are different parts of the sea devil, so it comes from one person. And we were introduced with the seraphim, is that how one seraphim, how the host body feels about something, like Hancock loving Luffy, S-Snake falling in love with, the moment she sees Luffy, falls in love with him the same way. Like, what if it's like this fear of Nika, like you're saying? Or I've always said that, what if the reason why Delphi users don't swim is whoever's power came from, that person had a fear of water or had issues with water, you know? Like, what if it's, you know, they don't realize it, but they're being affected by someone else. If she got her powers from Emu or someone else, you know? So that's also quite interesting.
It is. So I'm going to lead us now, guys, into final thoughts for the chapter. Before I do, I have one last question for the group. Do we think this is the peak of ELBAPH? What we're experiencing? Is this the ramp up to the peak? Or do you think things will calm down again and then we'll get another, like, different peak? Because if this is the peak, that means the arc could be over sooner than what we think it would.
So I'm gonna answer
I'll
first.
go first.
You go ahead. Okay, I'll say this. I don't think it's a peak because just by experience, in arcs like this, the moment it's always peak, but the moment we get to a good flashback, it just dials up so much higher. Egghead, Wano, Dressrosa, Fishman Island. It's always after the flashback sequences that it just goes crazy. So I think there's much more peak to come.
I agree with that in that, like, so this last spread here that shows all of these like nightmares honestly did elicit a similar vibe as like in Planet Fall when we got all of the Gorosei transformations. Like it did give me similar comparable vibes to that. This was absolutely crazy to see, but I don't think this is quite the peak yet, because our 3 some odd antagonists here, the main big bads for the one of them's just chilling on a couch right now. Like, I think it's only going to go up. It is going to get more intense. We will see an actual flex. This is not even breaking a sweat for them, and that is terrifying.
Neck 3-day. Do you guys think it's the peak?
Absolutely not. I can't say it any better. I think it just goes up from here.
Yeah, I'm not so sure myself either. I think that we'll still, like Kube said, we'll probably get a flashback arc still. Like Vex said, they have not made a move yet. I'm thinking that we'll see at least one Holy Nightfall of this arc. They've introduced a lot of them. We've got 4. So I'm thinking we're going to see one of those 4 get taken out. But yeah, so let's go around, give final thoughts and ratings, everybody. Let's start with my first mate, the man himself, Mr. Kube.
So I won't lie, this chapter I'm giving it a 9. I feel like it had so much, like, there's not a dull moment I feel with every pages. It's very rare to have. I usually have like, oh, this is cool, oh, I prefer this part in the chapter. Like, I had to pick and choose, like, what's my favorite part. I mean, the least interesting part obviously is still the cover story, but move the cover story in that equation, it's like, for me it's a 9.
Solid. Neck?
I give this a 7 out of 10. You can throw some slander my way all you like, but yeah, I don't think that's a bad score. I thought I would like to see some more reactions from people. I felt like there was too many panels for the same thing happening, and yeah. Other than that, I mean, it's not a bad chapter. It's just not. I wasn't super stoked on everything that happened. Like, it was all fun. Don't get me wrong. I feel like I gotta justify a 7 out of 10 every time I give it, but that's not a bad score. Everybody calm down.
No, it isn't. Like Vex always says, like 6 is a good, like 5 is a midpoint, and that's not saying the chapter's mid, is the midpoint. You know what I mean? So giving it a 7, that's a very good score. Yeah. 3-day. What about you?
I guess a 9 now. I had it maybe around an 8, but after hearing everybody's thoughts, it just made it so much better. It's theory gold. I know for me and Cube, I don't know about everybody else, but it was an amazing chapter. And just to think that what Lucas said about them working in tandem so well, like one could be just put them to sleep to control, easier to control, and one doing this and one doing that, it's just amazing. And then Cube bringing up the part about Law being a D and the story about them being raised talking about that's amazing. Thinking about Gunko could actually be scared because she was told that as a child. That is wild. I love it.
Yeah. Could you imagine being told as a child that the sun is gonna get you? Like,
yeah.
Like that kid from Benchwarmers. Was it Nick Swardson?
He's
so
eating the
funny.
sunscreen. Okay, Vex, what are final thoughts and rating?
Final thoughts. I thought the start of the chapter was a little bit up and down for me. It kind of just felt like we were just getting like proper noun soup. Like we were just getting a lot of people's names. Like, who the heck is Ylva? Who's Blade? Who's Tusk? And like I don't know how many of these people we're gonna need for the rest of this arc, especially if it does end up being shorter than what we were thinking. So I was just like, okay, we're just getting a lot of people I honestly don't care too much about. We did get to see Sol Flex, which was great. We did get to like some classic Oda puns, and so I loved that. For me, it was okay. I would have given this like maybe like a 5.5 until we get to the end here, and like when we see Loki standing up and just like aura farming, to quote you, Lucas, and like the swing and the nightmare creatures and stuff like that, like it honestly bumps it up a lot more for me. I do still think this is a setup chapter, so the highest I'd be willing to give it is an 8. I'd probably put this at like a 7.5.
Solid.
But
solid.
It came out very strong with this last spread. Like honestly, I might even be willing to go 7.75. It grew on me a little bit more as I had conversations with individuals, though, like how 3-Day was saying.
Yeah. For me, it's a solid 8. I think it has a lot of theory potential. Like Nax said, I do wish there's a little bit more reaction. The Loki stuff was amazing. Holy crap. Then the stuff with killing him's devil fruit and Sommer's possible power as well. And seeing like we had been talking about, Vex had brought up, like the working in tandem, that is just brilliant. I will never get over that. That is magnificent. And I think I would rate this a little bit higher if Ange wasn't in it so much.
Oh my goodness.
It's just, no, I'm joking. No,
Boo.
I was wanting to see more of, I won't lie, I was a little disappointed with this chapter because I wanted to see more of Sol and Robin together before stuff hit the fan, and I'm sad we didn't get that. That said, Midterm Slam is one of the greatest named One Piece attacks in all of history. I will never back that down. But yeah, I'm gonna give it 8. Yes.
You might get that dream of the anime, They might pull what they did in Wano and give us 5 filler episodes of Yamato and Ace. You never know, so
Yeah.
hopes for the anime to make
Listen,
like
yes,
5
yeah,
filler
5
episodes
filler
with
episodes
Sol
of Robin and Sol, please.
Yeah.
I will. The things I would like, do for that right now.
6 years from now, whenever it's finally animated.
So yeah, 8. Yeah, it's an 8 for me, for sure. Thank you guys all for watching today. Make sure that if you made it this far, you like, comment, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, ring the bell icon, because we do have more theories on the way, more chapter discussions on the way. And as always, yeah, Kube, take us away.
And we'll see you all at the next sunrise. Bye.
Okay.